I feel fortunate to be able to play for the fans down there, and I hope I hope I gave them some good memories when I was playing. The way people view the games is a little bit different. A lot more emotion and vocality from the fans down there in Venezuela. I still have the award, and I have a newspaper headline. I have it framed over here on the wall.
Los invito a que se suscriban al canal de YouTube de Marco.
Sin duda que por Venezuela han pasado muchísimos peloteros que han dejado una huella importante y tienen muchísimas historias que contar. Nosotros lo hemos tratado de hacer en los últimos 2 años a través de esta ventana que hemos llamado de Beatwriter. Durante esta cuarentena empezamos haciendo algunos podcasts analizando la situación del deporte con el tema del coronavirus. Después pasamos recordando algunos momentos de la historia de la Liga Venezolana de Béisbol Profesional, algo que vamos a seguir haciendo en los próximos días. Y por último se nos presentó la oportunidad de entrevistar a Josh Kroger, un pelotero que sin duda dejó una huella en los Leones del Caracas. Cuando hicimos aquella entrevista nos pidieron mucho que encontráramos a Luke Scott y lo logramos. Y después de esas 2 entrevistas nos pidieron que diéramos con la posibilidad de conversar con Tom Evans. Sin duda se trata de un trío de importados que han dejado una huella en la Liga Venezolana de Béisbol Profesional porque sus números han sido grandiosos y su desempeño ha sido excepcional. Hoy, de alguna manera, cerramos el ciclo con esos 3 importados que sin duda son los mejores que han pasado por nuestro béisbol en los últimos 20 años, sin dejar por fuera a Rangel Ravelo, que sigue participando en la pelota invernal venezolana. Para mí es un honor hoy darle la bienvenida a Tom Evans, a quien le agradezco junto con Cheryl, su esposa, el haber aceptado estar aquí en este espacio que le dedicamos el día de hoy. Evans me pidió encarecidamente que hiciéramos la entrevista en inglés. Él habla muy bien español. Estuvimos hablando, de hecho, en español por un tiempo antes de la entrevista y después de la misma, pero prefirió hacerla en su idioma materno, así que por eso también nos demoramos un poco en publicarla, porque tuvimos que hacer todo el proceso de traducción. Sin más preámbulos, espero que ustedes disfruten de esta conversación y le quiero dar entonces la más cordial bienvenida a Tom Evans, quien se conecta con nosotros desde Seattle, en donde reside, y va a compartir con ustedes de todas las anécdotas y muchísimas cosas que atravesó durante su carrera profesional en el béisbol. Gracias, Tom, por aceptar la invitación a nuestro espacio aquí en The Beatwriter. Para mí es un placer tenerte hoy aquí en mi canal de YouTube. Creo que tuviste la oportunidad de ver la entrevista con Josh Kroger, la conversación que sostuvimos con él días atrás, y una vez que hice esa entrevista, ese episodio en nuestro canal, pues muchísima gente me preguntó y me pidió que buscara la manera de tenerte aquí en nuestro espacio. La gente todavía te recuerda con muchísimo cariño aquí en Venezuela, Tom, y por eso te agradezco que hayas aceptado la invitación al canal de YouTube y que estés hoy compartiendo estos minutos con nosotros.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for the invitation. I saw the Josh Kroger interview as well, and you did a good job, and I'm sure a lot of people enjoyed it. I did. I know I enjoyed it.
Gracias, Tom. Para mí es un placer que hayas podido observar nuestro trabajo y bueno, te digo que yo recuerdo un poco cuando viniste a jugar en tu primera etapa a Venezuela. Yo todavía era un niño. Ya cuando viniste en los últimos años, en 2009 y 2010, ya yo estaba ejerciendo el periodismo y creo que en algún momento nos cruzamos, pero bueno, entiendo que eso fue hace 10 años.
Yeah, it was a while ago. The time goes by quick for sure.
La primera pregunta que quiero hacerte, Tom, es ¿qué estás haciendo ahorita después de que te retiraste del béisbol?
So my 2010 was my last year playing with Cardenales.
Yeah.
And that was my last year playing. Went and coached a year with the Angels rookie ball and did 1 year with that, and then went into custom home building. So I'm a carpenter now for 8 or 9 years building custom homes here in Seattle.
¿Por qué decidiste no continuar en el mundo del béisbol, Tom?
So first year out of baseball, that's kind of a tough decision. More of a tough situation. You know, my whole life, all I knew was baseball. All I wanted to do was just keep playing baseball. Some injuries kind of forced me out of the game. And an easy, natural transition was into coaching. So I went, applied, put my resume out there to a bunch of teams, and the Angels offered me a job, so I went with them. It was fun. I don't think it was for me. You know, I think I wanted to be playing, you know, and if I wasn't playing, I do have a lot to offer, I think, knowledge-wise, but I don't know, it just, I needed, I think, some time to step away and really decide what I wanted to do, and after doing that, stepped back and got into carpentry and kind of fell in love with that. So I'm really enjoying what I'm doing now.
¿Tienes algún plan de volver al béisbol profesional?
So my son is 10 years old. I think he enjoys baseball. He's playing, or last year was his first year. He was 9, so that was kid pitch, Little League. This year they got off to a start. They played a couple practice games, hadn't even started the season yet, and then COVID-19. So that kind of shut the season down. So we'll see. You know, I think he has the enthusiasm for the game, but we'll see next year if he wants to keep going. I think he's talented, so I really think he will.
Tom, ¿recuerdas cuándo empezó a gustarte el béisbol?
So the way I remember it, you know, when I grew up, we didn't have internet, we didn't have cell phones, we didn't have all that stuff. So it was more time spent outside playing. I had a couple neighbor kids that they would get out and play with me, and we played wiffle ball. If you know what wiffle ball is, you know, you guys play chapitas, or you know, you play stick ball in the streets. Well, it was our kind of equivalent. We used a plastic ball and plastic bat, and so we would just get out there, and I enjoyed just being out there playing ball. And then I remember, you know, I was probably 7 or 8. We didn't have cable TV. We just had the regular TV with you turn the knobs, and so airwave TV. And I'm in Seattle, so the Mariners is our local team here. And every Sunday they would transmit Mariner games on the TV. And I just remember falling in love seeing those guys on the TV, thinking. But when I was probably 5th, 6th grade, I started going to the Kingdom to the Mariner games with a friend of mine.
Okay.
And we would get there early for batting practice, try to catch the home run balls. And so from a young age, I enjoyed baseball and tried to be around it as much as I could.
¿Cómo fue la decisión de que te ibas a dedicar a jugar béisbol?
So it's funny because when I was young, I didn't know that, you know, I didn't know about careers or work, or, you know, I guess at that age, I didn't know how the world worked. All I know is I like to play baseball, you know, and so I wanted to be outside as much as I could, playing with my friends. And I guess when I got to high school, you know, I realized that I think I had a talent, and then if I applied myself, I could maybe make, you know, go far playing baseball, you know, and make a career of it. And so I would say around high school, obviously I enjoyed it and just kind of tried to put a little more focus into it.
Fuiste seleccionado en el draft colegial en la cuarta ronda. Muchos de ustedes cuando están en el draft tienen el dilema de si quieren firmar o si quieren ir para la universidad. En tu caso, firmaste desde el bachillerato. ¿En algún momento tuviste ese dilema, Tom?
So my senior year, I signed, they call it a letter of intent, to the University of Washington here in Seattle. And so I got a scholarship to play baseball there. Once I got drafted, well, kind of before that, teams were in and out of the house. They kind of do their own interviews of you, and they want to get a feel for you, and they want to know if they draft you, which way you're gonna go, if you're gonna go to college or if you're gonna sign with them. So at that time, I kind of knew if I was drafted high enough that I would go right away, sign professional, and start playing. I guess it all kind of depended on where I was drafted, because if you're drafted higher, that means they put more stock in you, and you'll probably get a better shot, because a lot of times there is some luck involved, and there is more patience involved with those players that they draft higher. So those were things that weighed on my mind. But once I was drafted, there was a period in there where I had to kind of weigh those options. Yeah.
¿Recuerdas el momento en que los Azulejos de Toronto te llamaron para decirte que te habían seleccionado en el cuarto round del draft?
Same thing. Nowadays, they have the internet and social media and all these ways. Actually, I think guys go to the draft spot and or on site. But for me, so it was in June, early June. I think it's the first week of June when the draft happens. And I want to say it's during the week. I can't quite remember, because you obviously don't know what day you're going to, if even you're going to get drafted. And if you are getting drafted, you don't know which day, because it's over a period of a few days. I think I stayed home from school, and, we didn't have cell phones, so we had one phone in the house. And I think I kind of hung out in the kitchen waiting for the phone, and it finally rang, and it was Toronto, fourth round. And so then, that was fun. That whole process was fun. But now, like you mentioned earlier, the decision, what do I do? Do I go to college or start playing ball right away? So, but that day, that was a special day. I think I was so, I wanted to get involved, and I wish I would have stepped back and kind of taken that day in a little more, so I had a little bit better memory of it. But I remember it being pretty exciting, yeah.
¿Recuerdas si fue el primero o el segundo día del draft?
I think it was probably the second or third day. I know it wasn't the first day.
Cuando viste que pasó el primer día del draft y no recibiste la llamada de algún equipo, ¿cómo te sentiste en aquel momento?
I think you're a little anxious. I wouldn't say disappointed, because, if it wasn't meant to get drafted that early, I going to college isn't a bad second, so, I wasn't too stressed about that.
¿Cuándo fue la primera vez que escuchaste sobre el béisbol venezolano?
So, Ryan Friel, you remember Ryan Friel? He played with Cardenales 96 or 97, maybe 97. He had played down there, and so we came up together with Toronto. And at that time, the Cardenales and Toronto had kind of a working relationship. And so what they would do was they would send a lot of the players from Toronto. They would send them to the Cardenales, and a lot of the coaches for the Cardenales were with Toronto, with the Blue Jays. And so they kind of had that pipeline back and forth. And so Ryan Friel had gone down there, and he raved about just the level of competition and the interest of the fan. no matter who you talk to, that's the first thing that comes up is the level of emotion that the fans bring to the stadium. And I think that's why so many players enjoy playing down there.
Tom, no sé si coincides conmigo, pero revisando tus números encontré que la temporada de 1998 fue, en mi opinión, la mejor que tuviste en Estados Unidos. ¿Cómo recuerdas ese año?
98?
98.
Well, 97 for me in the States or Venezuela or
No, in the States.
In the States. 97, that was my major league debut, so that was obviously a special, something special with me. That season, I got a late start. The previous year, 96 in Double-A, I was hurt my shoulder, had labrum surgery, tore my labrum, had labrum surgery. And that was after the season. I knew I had torn it midway through the year, but they didn't want to get surgery right away. They wanted to get me some at-bats. So ended up DHing kind of the last half of the season in 96. Season ended, got labrum surgery. So still wasn't totally healed come the 97 season. So I started the year in extended spring training. Got a late start. Extended spring, went to A-ball, got some ABs in A-ball, went to AAA, had a good year. So solid year, I guess. Not outstanding, but a good first year for AAA. And ended the year in the big leagues. So when I got to Toronto, it was September. So I got called up with a handful of other guys that were in AAA with me. Because in September they expand the rosters. At the time, 25-man roster, and then they would expand. The teams could call up to 40 players. So when I had gotten there, Ed Sprague was third baseman, and I think he had a torn labrum, but he was playing through it. And I think once I got there, they were out of the big league team was out of the contention for playoffs. So that was his time where he said, "I'm shutting it down. I'm going to repair my shoulder." So that was fortunate for me because that gave me a chance to get in there and pretty much play every day at third base. And here I am, 22 years old, be it a September call-up, which is, it's a little different situation, but still I was getting ABs and being able to play. So for me, the 97 season was pretty magical for me, even though, when I got to the big leagues, the numbers I put up weren't anything special, but it was still neat to be out there playing every day.
¿Recuerdas tu primer turno en las grandes ligas? ¿Cómo fue?
It was Shea Stadium, old in Queens, New York, the Mets. Before Citi Field, it was Shea Stadium. And I remember riding in a bunch of the guys. So like I said, there was a handful of guys from AAA that were up there with me. And so we all kind of hopped on the subway and took whichever train it was to get into Queens. We hopped on the subway, rode that in. I remember getting to that park, and we were out there for BP, and I wasn't playing that day. And so we got out there for BP, and I couldn't believe how big the stadium was. I mean, this thing was, here I was coming from, AAA stadiums, which are, respectable stadiums, but you get into this monstrous 50,000 seat Shea Stadium. And so the guys were taking ground balls before the game during BP, and I was over at first base catching the balls for them. They'd get their ground balls and throw them to first. And I remember and I'd never done this before, but I just got caught up in the moment, and I started looking around like how big the stadium is. And right then I hear everyone yelling, "Look out!" So the guys, they didn't quit taking ground balls and throwing them to first, and he comes up and throws to first, and when they yelled, it snapped me back into it, and that ball went right by my face. It didn't hit me, but that kind of brought me back down to earth. That it's time to go to work. So that night, pinch hit, National League game, so they did a double switch. Cito Gaston was the manager. Roger Clemens was pitching. I think he got into the seventh inning or so, did a double switch. So I inserted in Roger Clemens' spot. When I came up, Turk Wendell was the pitcher. a reliever for the Mets at the time. And I just remember him throwing slider, and I fouled a few back and then ended up getting a line drive up the middle. So first AB, I got a hit. So that was my big league debut story.
Qué gran historia, Tom. Gracias por compartirla. Después viene la decisión de venir a Venezuela. ¿Cómo llega ese momento en que te pones en contacto con la gerencia de los Cardenales de Lara?
So like I said, the Cardenales and Toronto Blue Jays had kind of that working relationship. So in '96, when I was in AA, Omar Malave was my manager. And he had mentioned bringing me down there to play with Lara. And, you know, I if it meant playing more ball and keep playing, you know, I was all for it. That year ended up tearing my labrum, so that year was put on hold. That was the 96 season, so 96, 97 for winter ball. The 97 season in the States, well, so getting back to playing in the Kingdom in 97, I played in front of my family here in the Kingdom. There was a ball to my left, and they had that old AstroTurf, the real short stuff, and it was almost like Velcro. So ball to my left at third base, I dove and brought my shoulder up, tore my left labrum. So after that season, had labrum surgery. So that delayed winter ball another year if I was going to go in the first place. So the following year, 98, 99 was Mallory was still there, and so they decided to bring me down. And so that's how I got down there at the start.
Cuando tomaste el avión hacia Venezuela y llegaste al país, ¿qué fue lo primero que pensaste?
I flew in. I met the very first time in Venezuela. I met the team on the road. They were in Maracaibo.
Okay.
And I remember getting in a taxi cab. You know, it was a big car, and I had a ton of bags. And he opened the trunk, and I remember thinking, this is not going to fit in this car. But he got it all in there. Bags are hanging half out the trunk, and it was pouring down rain. So by the time I got my stuff in the clubhouse, I remember all my bags were soaked. I remember that vividly, that first time landing. And then, you know, once kind of the shock, I mean, there's a big cultural difference, obviously, between here and Venezuela, and the way people view the games is a little bit different. A lot more emotion and vocality from the fans in down there in Venezuela. And I remember being taken aback by that, about how almost in your face the fans are when you're on the field, especially when you're playing on the road.
Tal como dijiste, Tom, tu primer partido en la Liga Venezolana de Béisbol Profesional fue en Maracaibo. ¿Cómo fue el momento en que te bajaste del taxi, llegaste al estadio Luis Aparicio el Grande y viste por primera vez a la afición venezolana?
You know, that specific game, I have no memory as far as what went on during the game.
No problem.
But I mean, as a whole, as the season went on, I remember being almost in, not shock, but surprised at the way that the games are played. You know, here everybody's kind of in their seat and they applaud and root for their team, but the fans down in Venezuela take it to another level for sure.
Ese año los Cardenales de Lara eran los campeones reinantes y estaban buscando el bicampeonato, que en efecto al final consiguieron con el batazo de Wes Chamberlain, de lo cual hablamos hace unos días en nuestro canal de YouTube. ¿Cómo sentiste cuando llegaste al país ese ambiente en Barquisimeto? Porque inclusive ese año estaban jugando peloteros como Robert Pérez, Miguel Cairo, Luis Sojo, y revisando los line-ups encontré algo curioso, que tú eras el octavo en la alineación de Cardenales de Lara, algo no tan común cuando un equipo trae un pelotero importado de tu experiencia en aquel momento, pero que con la nutrida cantidad de peloteros, pues el manager Omar Malavé tenía que hacer magia, ¿no?
Yeah, well, like you mentioned, those players, the Cardenales had some excellent big leaguers, excellent hitters, so they really, and especially that team, so many great hitters that the pitchers, the imports, the foreign players were more pitcher-based than hitter-based. Maybe I was still young, and I know there was a relationship there with Toronto, so maybe Toronto wanted me to get more at-bats and thought that would be a good opportunity for me. But to tell you the truth, that you're right, they probably didn't need me. They were stacked full of hitters, so thankfully they brought me down, and I was able to stick around for a little bit.
Estabas teniendo una gran temporada, Tom, en ese campeonato, pero te tuviste que ir en plena postemporada. ¿Por qué abandonaste a Cardenales de Lara en ese momento?
I mentioned when I tore my labrum there in the Kingdom the previous year, we were in the round robin, and it was in Caracas, I remember, at the stadium there. And I think it was against Los Leones, because both teams were playing there at the stadium. Same thing, a ball to my left, I dove and tore my labrum again. So at the time I was young, I was a prospect with Toronto, and they didn't want to take chances by leaving me down there. So Toronto pulled me out, brought me home, sent me to the doctor, and had it checked out. It turned out it was torn. Doing tests, I was able to, my mobility was good enough where they wanted to see if I could get by without having surgery. So I played my entire career, rest of my career, with a torn left labrum, which never affected me. But that's what happened there. And it's too bad. I mean, obviously they ended up winning. But talk about a great team, a great lineup. I think we got Maglio, Ordonez as refuerzo that year. I was so young though. I think as a hitter, I don't think I was, and I'm sure it would have helped me had I stayed there or following years, but ended up going back years later. But I don't know if I was mentally as developed as I wish I had been at that time. I think I was just kind of up there seeing it and hitting it, and I think it was my years in Japan maybe that I really started to pay attention about counts, hitters counts, and what the pitcher is trying to do to you. But so that's, I was young there in those first years in Venezuela, and my numbers weren't horrible, but they weren't great, and luckily I was able to get back there years later.
¿Qué tan preocupado estabas por aquella lesión, Tom, que sufriste aquí en Venezuela? ¿Pudiste seguir las incidencias de la postemporada? ¿Hacia dónde estaba caminando el equipo de Cardenales de Lara en aquel momento? Porque ese fue el año del batazo de Wes Chamberlain, tal como dijimos, y Cardenales al final terminó ganando el campeonato. Sé que en ese momento tampoco existía internet ni toda la tecnología que hoy tenemos para seguir los partidos de béisbol de otros países, pero podías de alguna manera enterarte de la actualidad del equipo.
Yeah, definitely more difficult to follow. I mean, actually, I've been watching winter ball games here at the Venezuelan League, just a few months ago here in my home, which was pretty neat. And congratulations to the Cardenales this year. Campeón.
Asumo que Cheryl es fanática de Cardenales de Lara a más no poder.
Oh, yeah. Yep. So, but at the time, Mike Romano was on that team.
Yeah.
I think actually Ryan Friel played down there that year. I think he was part of that outfield or center field. So when the season ended in winter ball, those guys come back home, and in spring training, I see them and able to catch up. And so I got the rundown of what happened. The following year, going back, the team was gracious enough to, they gave me a ring a championship ring. So even though I don't really feel like, I mean, I was a part of the team a little bit, but it would have been nice to be there through the rest of the round robin and then obviously into the finals. But yeah, pretty neat.
Después de esa temporada, los Rangers de Texas te tomaron en waivers. ¿Cómo fue aquella transacción y cómo lo tomaste?
So that happened. So when I went down there to play with Cardenales that year, I had already been designated by Toronto, meaning they let me go. So I went down to winter ball more now with an agenda to put up good numbers so that other teams would look at that, you know, and be more likely to offer me a contract. When I went down there, I had so let me back up, 99, Oklahoma City. I was with Oklahoma City. We got to the playoffs end of the year and ended up tearing my right shoulder again. I dove back into the base, tore my right shoulder, got the MRI, showed a torn labrum, but the team didn't want to do anything. You know, I was a minor league free agent sign, and they weren't gonna, there wasn't too much interest there to get me repaired. So I was kind of on my own, went down to Venezuela, and I was a free agent again. I signed a 1 year, the year previous, I signed a 1 year contract with Toronto, with minor league, with Texas, Oklahoma City. Started putting up good numbers offensively, but at the same time, I'm trying to manage a torn labrum. So my wife always gives me a hard time about, I didn't know it, but they said they'd call me the bazooka because I could catch the ground balls, but my shoulder was so jacked up that when I would go to throw it, you know, I had to throw it as hard as I could in order to try to, that's the only way I could get around it. If I tried to give any finesse or anything, because of the injury to the shoulder. It hurt, yeah. So the only way that I could try to play defense was just to bite my lip and throw it over there as best I could. And a lot of them ended up in the stands. So she doesn't let me forget that. But so I'm playing through that. I'm a free agent. I don't have a team, and I'm trying to put up good numbers. So when Texas did re-sign me back, that was a huge relief because I was at the point where I'm without a team, I'm injured, you know, and I tried to do the best I could playing through that injury.
Tom, ¿esa lesión era imposible de reparar con una cirugía?
No, the injury, it needed to be repaired. But if I get it repaired right now, then I'm kind of in a situation where I'm without a team. You know, I felt it best to try to play through it and see if I can manage it. As it turned out, Texas re-signed me back, a big league camp invite. So I went to a big league camp with Texas and ended up finishing the year winter ball, went to big league camp with Texas, and then had the best spring training that I could imagine, and ended up making the team opening day third baseman with Texas. And I'm trying to play through this arm thing, so it was kind of a tough situation at the same time, trying to avoid, you know, trying to get through with the arm.
¿Tuviste la oportunidad de operarte esa lesión o jugaste con ella toda tu carrera?
That was 2000 when I made the big league club with Texas. Played for as long as I could, and then a few months into the season, I couldn't perform, you know, anymore. So I ended up shutting it down, getting another shoulder surgery there. And fortunately, that was the last one there. So I got that repaired and got it taken care of. Missed the season, but was able to get back on track.
Finalmente vuelves una temporada más a Venezuela, Tom. ¿Cómo recuerdas a los fanáticos en aquel momento? Los Cardenales de aquel entonces eran un gran equipo, lo siguen siendo, de hecho son los bicampeones reinantes, pero en aquella ocasión conseguían su primer bicampeonato y tenían un gran line-up. ¿Cómo recuerdas el impacto de Cardenales en Barquisimeto en aquel momento?
You know, I think I remember it more the good years. I was kind of there, but I didn't feel total part of the team. And I know there was when I was there, we kind of had a dry spell, on the years. Cardenales they weren't really a force. They had some dry years, some lean years. And now it's good to see them back. They won last year and they won this year. And they had a good showing in the Caribbean too, which is kind of a bonus. But, I wish we would have gone further with the Cardenales in the years that I was there, because it's always fun to go, with your original team.
¿Había algo especial, Tom, que te motivaba a seguir viniendo a Venezuela?
The baseball. I mean, the baseball, if you go down the roster, especially the closer you get to Christmas time, November, late October, November, December, you go down those lineups, those are some pretty talented lineups, both offensively and defensively. And, that's some of the best baseball, any of the winter leagues. I would say, I'm not real familiar with the Mexican Winter League, but Dominican, Puerto Rico, and Venezuela, those winter leagues, I mean, the lineups are full up and down of big leaguers. And those are some of the best baseball played. And I think when you're playing at that level, a competitive level, the competition is kind of what drives you and what you thrive on. And so that the competition and the atmosphere, I mean, the fans, you're playing down there in front of, 20,000, 25,000 people, the fans, the stadium's full of fans that are, and they're not just watching the game, they're involved in pitch to pitch, they know what's going on, and it's a pretty fun experience.
Tom, el año 2000 fue particularmente fuerte para Cardenales de Lara porque fueron eliminados en la postemporada. En ese campeonato se tuvieron que ir en enero Wes Chamberlain, Anthony Sanders, que eran figuras claves del equipo, y Omar Malavé decidió renunciar en plenos playoffs. ¿Cómo recuerdas aquel momento de Cardenales de Lara?
So, as far as Wes and Anthony leaving, it wasn't, those are two key pieces for our team offensively. Wes, obviously, great hitter. Anthony, just an outstanding athlete, offensively, defensively. He could run, could hit, and power. So both of those guys, losing those guys. But over the years playing in winter ball, not that didn't become the norm, but it wasn't totally uncommon to see Americans something come up, because a lot of the Americans, they've got their families back home, and a lot of times situations come up, or they want, they spend all regular season in the U.S. fall away from their family, and then to spend all winter away from their family again is tough on the family. So it's not uncommon to see that happen. But that doesn't take away from the fact that, it hurts the team, because those guys were definite assets. And then with Omar leaving, I think the guys just tried to get through it the best they could and keep a cohesive attitude. And sometimes things like that come up, and you just got to try to adapt and adjust and work through it. And I think, we did the best we could.
¿Cómo fue el impacto de la renuncia de Omar Malavé, Tom, considerando todo lo que había logrado con el equipo? Y además, para ti, ¿cómo fue esa noticia que ya lo conocías de las ligas menores con los Azulejos de Toronto?
For me, you're right. I did know Omar pretty well. I had him in low A ball, I think, for 2 years, and then in '96 in Double A. So I knew Omar well, and it's always nice playing for a manager that a new guy comes in. Sometimes you feel you need to prove yourself, and in that case, I can't remember sure if it was Pino who took over or not, but personally, I felt comfortable with Pino. But there's a lot of guys that maybe didn't know him or were just getting comfortable with Malavé, and then a new guy comes in, and so it's always kind of an uncomfortable situation for the players. It's an unknown, it's a shake-up mid-season. So anytime something like that happens, it has an impact. You know, when a team's playing, the chemistry is right. You know, when they're playing good ball, their chemistry is right. Things are just hitting on all cylinders. And when you throw a kink in the system like that, sometimes it disrupts it. And you know, but then again, it's stuff you gotta endure and work through. So not ideal, but
Después de eso decides irte a Japón, Tom, y probar una nueva experiencia. ¿Cómo fue aquello para ti, dejar el béisbol en tu país y dejar un poco de lado el sueño de seguir en Grandes Ligas?
So 2001, well, after the 2000 year, Texas let me go. So in my mind, I'm thinking 99, 98, Toronto let me go. You know, went to Texas, spent 2 years there. They let me go. Signed in 2001 with Detroit, minor league free agent. Got sent to AAA. And about midway, a little before midway, halfway through the season, got a call from Japan, from Hanshin Tigers, offering me a contract to go play out the rest of the year over there in Japan. So in my mind, you know, I've been let go a couple times by a couple teams in the United States. You know, not getting up there in age, but definitely getting to that point where guys can start going down in their career. And I felt it was an opportunity when they gave me that offer. This might be the time to go over there. I think I might have been 28 at the time. And so what happened, you know, I was in AAA in Toledo with Detroit. I was having a great first half of the season. And Hanshin had, so the Japanese teams allow 4 import players. So they had 2 pitchers and 2 hitters. One of the hitters was Eduardo Perez. I think he had gotten hurt and he was trying to manage through. And I think he let them know that he wanted to head home. So they started looking for a replacement for him. And I happened to be hot at the time. And so they offered me a contract. And so that was my thought process for accepting their offer. So I went there, spent the rest of the year there with Hanshin. That was 2001. They offered me back 2002. And so, you know, now I'm on that path that I already committed to going that route. So I signed back with them in 2002. And then their manager got in a little trouble for legal trouble, and they ended up replacing the manager. He didn't care too much for me, and so they traded me to Cebu Lions, another team in the other league, and finished the year out there. So I ended up splitting 2002 between those 2 teams.
El hecho de jugar en Venezuela, Tom, te ayudó a adaptarte a Japón, considerando que ya tenías la experiencia de jugar en otros países diferentes al tuyo.
Yeah, without a doubt, playing down in Venezuela, because you're out of the comforts of your home, you know, so you're dealing with learning a new culture, a new language. In the case of playing Venezuela, I was able to pick up that language. So that definitely helps. When I went to Japan, you know, I probably learned 2 words because you can't, I mean, it's so complicated, their language and their writing. But so that definitely helped. The guys that were over there, the other foreigners, helped out tremendously. They were good guys and welcomed me and kind of showed me the ropes and helped me along. Actually, where I was at, we had, I think, 2 teams worth of imports staying at the same apartment complex. So instead of being, you know, 3 other guys, actually each team had 4 in the major league team and then some guys in their minor league team. So we had a handful of guys between the 2 teams, the 2 organizations and their 2 big league and minor league teams that it was quite a few Americans over there.
En tu última temporada en Japón diste 15 jonrones y terminaste con más de 500 de slugging. ¿Por qué decidiste abandonar Japón?
I wanted to.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's the thing about Japan is they have a limited amount of foreigners. Usually what I've seen, 2 hitters and 2 pitchers. So I'm one of 2 hitters. And so you've really got to put up numbers. So by the time I got traded mid-season to Cebu, I think I ended up with, I don't know, 15, 16 home runs. In a half a season, that's pretty good numbers, yeah. Except for the fact that they brought me over. They traded for me mid-season because a guy named Scott McLean, third baseman, had broke his wrist, and he hit 40-some homers the year before. So they were going to bring him back, and that kind of left me odd man out. So when you're a foreigner in Japan, you know, be it fair or not fair, the numbers are expected, and you got to put up. Or I mean, it's a business for them too. So they if guys aren't producing right away, the turnover is high for imports.
En el medio de esas experiencias en Japón, aún era joven, Tom, tenías 28, 29 años. ¿Tenías todavía el sueño de regresar a Grandes Ligas en aquel momento o ya pensaste en aquel entonces que esa oportunidad estaba desechada?
So I think after that 2003 season, I think, like I said, I knew I kind of blew it, you know, and there's not many guys that get released from AAA at 28, you know, that are able to and then go to Mexico and then come back to the States. It's pretty far and few between. And you know, I just, I didn't, honestly, I kind of knew that I wasn't getting back to the big leagues, and I was okay with that. You know, I mean, it is what it is. Obviously I would have liked to, but, you know, that was, I don't know. After I got back from Japan, I had some bad years. Like, I don't know if I forgot how to hit the fastball or what, but, you know, a couple bad years. I think maybe something that happened in Japan, I think for the Japanese, they don't want their pitchers to give up home runs to foreigners. They're fine with giving up home runs to other Japanese, but they don't want to get beat by the foreigners. So what ends up happening, if you get a 2-0 count or a 3-1 count, you know, a typical fastball hitter's count, even with nobody on, you start seeing off-speed curveballs and a lot of split fingers and shoot those, they call them, which is kind of a sinker type thing. The balls are smaller, so they do a little bit different stuff with the balls, but or the movement is a little bit different. But you know, I think I ended up seeing and adapting and sitting on so much off-speed curveballs, change-ups, that other stuff that they're throwing, that I think I just lost the ability to hit, and I needed to kind of reset. And you know, luckily I was able to do that because I ended up having my, you know, I still hadn't even gotten back to Barquisimeto and Lara, and I ended up getting back and having some of my better years once I did get back. And obviously winter ball, you know, you got some great arms with the guys down there, and I was able to kind of reset myself offensively and learn how to hit the fastball again.
Pasaste 4 años sin venir a Venezuela dada tu experiencia en Japón. ¿En aquel entonces extrañabas al país o ese impacto que Venezuela generó en ti llegó en tu segunda fase en el país? Porque en la primera sé que no jugaste mucho, sino que te convertiste en la figura que eres en Cardenales de Lara ya después en la segunda fase de tu carrera aquí en Venezuela.
Most definitely, like you said, I gained a respect and kind of a love for the culture and the people and the ball, you know, the competition and the league on the kind of the second go around.
Okay.
The first time down, the first year and a half, 2 years, it was more about Toronto, right?
Yeah.
I was there through the Blue Jays, and I was trying to make my way to the big leagues through playing in winter ball because that's what they wanted me to do. And it was a step for me to get to the big leagues. Then when I went to Japan, so the Japanese, if I'm part of their organization, they won't let, they may let the Venezuelan guys play in their winter league. They don't either. Okay.
No, they wouldn't.
So because I was playing in Japan, they wouldn't let me go play winter ball. So then now kind of the realization that big leagues is kind of going away, you know, that opportunity. You know, maybe that's kind of why I started to bear down and realize what was in front of me and the time I had was valuable. You know, I better, if I want to continue playing, you know, apply myself a little more. And so what I did after got let go from from Japan, they didn't resign me back. So now I come home and I don't, you know, haven't been playing in the States for years, hadn't played in Venezuela, you know, so my wife, I was dating, my wife was with me and she was my girlfriend at the time in Japan. And I'm home after the season, no team, no prospects. And I put together a bag and flew down to Venezuela and called up the team. I think I called up Carlos Miguel Oropesa or Emilio Carrasquel.
Yeah.
And they said, yeah, come on out. You know, it'd been years since I've been down there, but they said, come on out, we'll throw you some BP and hit you some grounders. And so that's how I got back to Venezuela. And they said, they gave me a spot on the team. And then, so that was 2003, 2004 season, if I'm not mistaken. Had a few years to those, 3 years in a row or 4 years. And then ended up hurting my knee in the Mexican League, 2005, 2006. Went down to Venezuela and tried to play on a bum knee. I didn't know what the problem was, but something wasn't right. So I came home, saw the doctor, and it was cartilage was gone. So it was essentially bone rubbing on bone. And that was kind of a tough decision because at that point, now I'm 31, 32 years old. You know, it might be time to quit playing. And my wife and folks said, you know, get your knee taken care of, get surgery done, get it operated on. So I did that. Tried to go play again down in Mexico, and my knee wasn't right. Got another surgery done and cleaned it up enough where I was able to play another year or two, but was kind of in pain the whole time. And you know, so kind of the last few years was tough because I was playing, you know, I was playing through pain.
Okay. ¿En 2005 estabas lesionado o estabas sano? Porque ese año fue grandioso para ti, Tom. De hecho, no sé si sabías esto, pero eres el sexto pelotero extranjero con 17 jonrones y 50 carreras remolcadas. De hecho, esos números te llevaron a lograr el MVP.
Definitely healthy that year.
Okay.
You know, that year, you know, that was a year where, well, the year before that I had a pretty good year as well. And that's what I was getting to about just getting back into seeing fastballs and getting aggressive and kind of getting back on track offensively. So that year now I was definitely healthy. Those 2 years healthy. It wasn't until when that season, winter ball season ended, went back down to Mexico and was having a good year. Actually started the year in Tabasco. Got traded to Saltillo. I think I had 30 homers through the year and one game playing first base. It was a ground ball to shortstop in the hole. He comes up and one hops it to first. And when I went up the stretch, I felt a little tweak in my knee. And then the knee ended up being maybe some cartilage broke loose and maybe the last of the cartilage that I had. But So that was what happened. But no, the 2005, that was a fun year. You know, unfortunately, we as a team, because it's always, you know, it's good to have individual accomplishments, but the main goal for me, there's nothing better than the guys that you start the year with, you know, your original team, going out there and having a great year. And I would have liked to seen us do what the Cardenales did these last 2 years, you know, make their way through the round robin and the finals, and give the city, the people of Barquisimeto at that time had been years, like 5-6 years since they had a championship, and I think they wanted one bad, but we had some good players, but we're never able to put it together.
¿Recuerdas algún partido específico de esa temporada 2005-2006, Tom?
So we ended up tied for the last spot for the round robin.
Yeah.
And one game playoff with Zulia. And I remember there was some controversy. I think we were supposed to play that game back home because of head-to-head throughout the season. I think we beat them more than they beat us. So I think that game was supposed to be played in Lara. And for some reason, we had to play it. We had to travel, you know, and go play over there. And I remember the guy that they had out there, I don't know, he was an American guy. Slider, I mean, 90% sliders, and he knew what was coming. Everybody, I mean, that's all he was throwing. And he had a good slider, but if you know that it's coming, you know it's coming, so you can look for it. But he shut us down, and it was still a close game, 2-1, or, you know, we ended up losing. And I remember being so disappointed because I wanted to keep playing with this group of guys. You know, Robert was on. He still had some years left, but you know, he was getting older too, and you know, Soho was. I think Soho was managing at that time.
Yeah.
But I remember that. I remember being disappointed that I wanted to keep going with that group of guys. Jimenez was there, I believe. You know, just we had some good ball players and just weren't able to pull it through that year. We had a run toward the end of the year. We got behind. We were having a bad year, and about midway through the season, started to turn it on. And I remember we had a chalkboard with our ranking, and we were climbing up the standings, you know, trying to get into the playoffs, but fell short at the end.
Como dijiste, esta temporada 2005-2006 no fue buena para Cardenales de Lara. Clasificaron a la postemporada ciertamente, pero lo hicieron con récord negativo. Y eso llevó a Phil Regan a renunciar con los larenses. ¿Cómo recuerdas ese momento?
Yeah, so Phil Regan, he had, you know, he'd been down there. He was with Caracas, I think, for a bunch of years.
Yeah.
And he'd been with, I think, every team down in Venezuela.
Yeah.
And I liked playing for Phil. He kind of let us go out there. You know, he'd been around long enough. He knew that he let us do our thing, you know, and guys knew how to prepare, knew what it took for them to get ready. And he kind of let us do our own thing. Unfortunately, in winter ball, it's such a short season. If the team gets off to a bad start, the manager, whether right or wrong, are the ones that pay the price. And, you know, half the time I think it's just to shake up, to send a message to the players that, you know, we better get our stuff in order and start playing and winning. But I like Phil, and, you know, unfortunately they let him go. They brought in Luis Soho, and I don't think he was probably managing in the States, I believe, but I don't know if he'd been a player the whole time down in winter ball at that point. And he was doing both, which is kind of a, you know, that's a difficult thing. I couldn't do it, you know. But I think we tried to do the best we could, but, you know, there again, circumstances came up and, you know, did the best we could.
¿Cómo recibiste, Tom, la noticia de que habías ganado el MVP?
That was neat. Because of the respect that I had for the league, for the players in that league. You know, I don't know how it is now with you know, the situation politically might be a little different, you know, the number of guys that are going down there. but at the time, you know, when you got closer to Christmas time, November, December, I mean, those were strong lineups, and to be able to compete and have a solid year and be regarded enough that, you know, I was voted MVP. That was a great honor for me, and I take, you know, I'm proud of that. So I have fond memories of that.
¿Qué tan especial fue para ti ganar ese premio?
Very special. You know, I still have the award, and you know, I have a newspaper headline. I have it framed over here on the wall. You know, and that's a part of my career that you know, can never be. It's part of my career, you know, that I'm very proud of. So very special for me.
Después de todas las lesiones que sufriste en tu carrera, Tom, y de los que nos has contado a lo largo de esta entrevista, ¿qué tan importante fue para ti esa temporada?
That was special. That's a good point, you know, because 96, 97, 98, and 99 were all, you know, now that you mention it, I never really thought of it, but 4 consecutive years like that, you know, were kind of cut short because of injury. So to kind of play a full year, you know, for me, I was probably in my prime. I was probably 30, 31 years old. And, you know, just to have a solid year, put up good numbers, be healthy. The only thing I could have asked for would have been for the Cardenales, for, you know, for us to go further and win the championship. So I remember leaving that year being optimistic for the following year. You know, it was kind of had a mission, you know, that was my mission, to go back the following year and put up big numbers and help the team, you know, if we could all do it from day one, you know, with the mission, with the main goal to get to the playoffs and win the championship. I think, you know, I was kind of at that point, I was very optimistic and kind of excited for the year that was coming up. Unfortunately, had the next knee injury, and when I did go down there, I thought it would go away, to tell you the truth. I worked out all winter, before, you know, October, before the season started, and thought it would just I thought I had a kink in the knee or something. I thought maybe it would get better, and it just never did. So I was pretty disappointed the following year.
Tom, en Venezuela hay muchos scouts de grandes ligas. Después de que ganaste el MVP en esa campaña, ¿te pasó por la cabeza que alguno de esos scouts podían contactarte para ofrecerte un nuevo contrato?
Definitely on my mind. The only thing, you know, realistically looking at it, in my mind, I was looking at it through their eyes, and 31, 32-year-old, you know, I kind of, it's not unheard of, but I wasn't expecting anything. I know, so by this time, the Cardenales kind of had a working relationship with the Mariners.
Okay. And
a lot of the players, but a lot of the coaches were coaches with the Mariners. And I know, Pat Gillick was now with the Mariners. Pat Gillick was the GM. He was GM at the time with Toronto that drafted me. So I think it was Jose Moreno or Jesus Asuaje. Somebody who was a coach with the Mariners had mentioned that they brought my name up in a Mariners meeting. And Pat Gillick had asked, you know, how's my health? So he knew that, you know, I had injury problems and specifically my knees. So he, those were two things going against me: my age and, you know, my history of injuries. So I wasn't getting too set on getting a contract back in the States.
¿Qué tan difícil fueron para ti esos 3 años que pasaste lesionados, Tom?
So after the knee surgery, yeah, that was tough, because early on in my career with the shoulder surgeries, I was still young, and I knew I could bounce back. Obviously, I, you know, didn't want it to happen, but it happened. But I wasn't so worried about it. With the knees, I was getting older, and the first surgery didn't go well. Now I'm going for a second surgery, which is never a good situation. So I was kind of at that point starting to prepare myself, you know, what's going to happen, you know, prepare for the next phase of my life, because, you know, it was only a matter of time before the knee was going to give out and the rest of the body, especially when, and it ended up, it did happening, playing on a knee that's, you know, after the 2 surgeries, it wasn't fully repaired, never will be. Now other areas of my body, because of overcompensating for my knee, you know, now my back's starting to hurt, and my hips, and this and that. So that's when I started to kind of think about next phase of my life.
Después de todo eso, decidiste regresar a Venezuela.
I came back the first year back, so that would have been 08, 09.
09.
Right? 09. I won the comeback of the year.
Yeah.
And I didn't have a great, I mean, I had a solid year. I would have liked to, you know, obviously the year prior year was the 05, where I had a full season. You know, I would have liked to come back to those type numbers, but I had a solid year. But then again, you know, we fell short, the Cardenales, and then went back the following year. And the following year, 2010 was, you know, I kind of knew that was the end there. You know, I had to, after batting practice, I had right away, you know, there was no break. I had to hurry up, get changed, get my uniform on, and get out on the field and start stretching again, because my body, once I stopped moving, my body just got so tight that, you know, I couldn't stop moving. So there was, once batting practice stopped, change, get my uniform on, and get out on the field and just keep stretching. And you know, that's tough to do. That's a routine that you can't really keep up, because there's, you know, you're playing through tightness and injury and pain. And, you know, at that point I'm 35, 36, you know, so the body at that point doesn't heal like it once did, you know. So.
Tom, con todo eso que nos has contado, cuando llegaste en 2009, lograste 9 jonrones y toda esa temporada que te llevó a ganar el regreso del año, ¿cómo te sentiste?
Yeah, so that was that, even though, you know, it was more of a personal triumph coming back. I remember that first year back, hitting up, it was early on, you know, I'd just gotten there. One of the first games, hit a home run. And I remember coming back to the dugout, you know, and being a little bit emotional because, you know, of those surgeries and the struggles and the commitment. You know, that's a time commitment and an effort commitment, and there was a lot involved. So yeah, I got a little emotional because that was a personal triumph for me, you know, and I was thankful to God that, you know, I was able to return. I wasn't getting back to the big leagues. I wasn't doing anything, you know, but for me, it was special just to be able to get back, and because playing ball is what I love, you know, and if I could, I'd keep playing, you know, forever. But so for me, that was very special for me, a personal triumph, you know, just to be able to be around the guys, be one of the guys again, playing ball.
¿Qué necesitaste hacer para regresar a Venezuela después de 3 años de ausencia? ¿Qué tan difícil y cómo fue ese proceso?
So it was a little bit tough because now, after so much time off of that leg, atrophy, and they call it muscle atrophy, where your muscle of your, whatever it is, in this case, my leg started to go away. So first things first, I had to concentrate on getting my strength back in my leg. So once I was able to do that, now I got to get my arm in shape, you know, start hitting again, get back into baseball shape. And once I felt I was at a point, I think I gave Louis Soho a call. He was managing the Tampa Yankees, and I was up here in Seattle. And he told me that Carlos Miguel and Humberto Oropesa were going to be visiting him down there in Tampa. And this was probably July or August that they were going to be down there. So I continued to work out up here in Seattle. You know, now Louis put me in contact with the Oropesas, and we scheduled up a meeting where they could watch me hit and throw down in Tampa. So I flew down to Tampa, worked out for them, and you know, they saw that. I think they're, to be honest, I think they're a little surprised. I think they thought that, you know, it wasn't going to go well, and it didn't go too bad. So then that's when they said, okay, we'll bring you back. And I was pretty grateful for them. They didn't have to do that, you know, and if they didn't, I don't know if any other team would have. So I was thankful that they brought me back. The Cardenales, they always treated me real well.
Tom, creo que es una extraordinaria oportunidad que nos hayas brindado esta posibilidad de dar a conocer un poquito de todo lo que atravesaste, porque yo creo que muchísima gente no conoce todo el historial de lesiones que sufriste en tu carrera y que a pesar de eso pudiste tener una carrera brillante aquí en Venezuela. ¿Qué significa para ti ser el único importado con 50 jonrones en la Liga Venezolana de Béisbol Profesional?
Yeah, my time in Venezuela, I enjoyed it, and I think I was only able to put up those numbers because I kept going back, you know, and I kept going back because I enjoyed playing down there so much, you know. The guys on the team, the people, you know, Barquisimeto, you know, it's kind of you get kind of that hometown, small town feeling a little bit, you know, it's a smaller type, and the people love their team, you know, and when you're playing well, and they try to help you out and support you and get behind you. And it was easy for me to keep going back down there because the baseball was so good and the fans were so good. It was fun to keep going back. And the more you go back, the more numbers you're going to put up. So I feel fortunate to be able to have played for so long down there.
¿Recuerdas tu último turno con Cardenales de Lara? Fue específicamente en diciembre de 2010 contra Caribes de Anzoátegui.
What did I do? I think I hit a ground ball to short.
Yeah.
Yep. I think that at bat before that, I hit a homer. Yeah, and I probably knew that was it. I probably should have had my last one be a few at bats earlier, or no, I take that back. It was a couple games prior against Caracas, and the wind was blowing out the hardest I'd ever seen a blowout in Barquisimeto.
Okay.
We were playing Caracas, and Jimenez was hitting third. I was hitting fourth. Jimenez was facing a lefty, and I think he threw him a slider. Jimenez hit it to left center. He hit it about left center from a lefty, opposite field, halfway up the stands and left. So then they switched pitchers, brought in a righty. He was throwing pretty good. And first pitch, you know, I knew fastball was coming and got the foot down early. And the wind was still just howling out. And I got every bit of that ball and hit it out of the stadium and at Barquisimeto. That's the at-bat I should have left off on. I should have hung them up.
Tom, ¿qué tan importantes son los Cardenales de Lara para ti?
You know, they have such a special place in my heart. Playing there, I mean, down the line from ownership, management, you know, the players, the fans, you know, it's somewhere, you know, my wife and I talk about, we want to go back. You know, someday I know we will be able to, you know, once situations there improve. my son has met his grandfather one time down there. My daughter's never met her. She's 3. She's never met her granddad. So we want to get down there sooner than later, and hopefully things improve. It's kind of a second home for us that we haven't been able to get back to. So.
¿Qué fue lo que más disfrutaste de Venezuela apartando el béisbol?
The culture there is so unique, especially, for myself, having never been to a Latin America country prior to playing down there. Just the culture itself is so fun to get out and immerse yourself in. And the people of Venezuela were great. The people of Barquisimeto were even better. Obviously Venezuela is kind of a baseball country and very territorial with, the towns and their teams. And I feel fortunate to be able to play for the fans down there. And I hope they, I hope I gave them some good memories when I was playing. I know I have some. I had a great time.
¿Cuál fue el equipo que más disfrutaste enfrentar?
So it would be Caracas, because we didn't have the Caracas Magallanes that those guys, and we would watch those games on TV because every time those teams play, it doesn't matter if it was in October, the stadiums would be packed. They would have that feel, just a playoff atmosphere that is tough to describe. For us, those games were Caracas. So when Caracas would come in, I should say, especially playing at home. When we would play in Caracas, for those fans, the Caracas fans, it's just another game. They're playing against Lara. For them, their big thing was Magallanes. For us, playing at home in Barquisimeto, our big game was Caracas. So anytime playing Caracas, especially like a day game, at home against Caracas, those games it's so much fun, to be able to get out there and compete in front of the atmosphere that Venezuelan baseball is so much fun.
¿Cómo recuerdas esos llenazos en esos partidos en los estadios que mencionas, Tom?
How do I remember? On the edge of your seat type, when you're on defense, you're just so focused, and then, on offense, it's just, the stadium is just a buzz with the horns and, the whistles, and it's just, you have to kind of be there to experience it, to understand, the excitement that is a buzz. Just a very special thing, very, very fun.
¿Qué te gustaba hacer en tus días libres?
So we like to get out. There were some spots in Barquisimeto where we could get out kind of in the countryside. That was always fun. They had kind of a mountainous area. They get out there and they rent horses, and you can ride horses and kind of see the country. And that was fun. We would get out and just take walks around the city, and you'd be, like I said, it's kind of a smaller town, so you could take a walk and people would recognize you and stop and talk baseball. And half the time someone would grab you and they'd bring you into their house and feed you sometimes. It's just kind of a very family oriented type feeling walking around the town. People were very generous, very accommodating, and very just very nice people. And that was coming from, I'm from Seattle area, so it's a bigger area, and you don't get kind of that interaction with people as much. It was special to play there.
Tom, la gente me pidió que te preguntara sobre el sobrenombre de Cometajadas.
Yeah, that I still, we have them once a week here at home. Still, we go down to the Mexican grocery store, and they got the plátanos, and we get them. The the darker, the blacker, the better for me. I like them sweet. But that was kind of neat, you know. I mean, it's funny, the people down there, they want to get to know the players' personality, you know, and to me, that's kind of what that speaks to is, you know, they got to know me, you know, and it was kind of fun. So people would bring me plátanos. It was good. I could eat a lot of tajadas.
¿Qué otra comida venezolana te gusta?
You know, I just the typical Venezuelan plate, you know, the carne machada and arepa. You know, so my wife's Venezuelan, right? So still get the typical cooking here at home. So it's, yeah, I love it. Love the Venezuelan food.
Tom, cuando le hice la entrevista a Josh Kroger, Ignacio Serrano, un periodista amigo de Beatwriter y un gran maestro para mí, hizo una columna en su página elemergente.com en donde buscó a los mejores importados de los últimos 20 años, es decir, de este siglo, en la Liga Venezolana de Béisbol Profesional. Tú eres el líder en carreras anotadas, empujadas, jonrones, eres el cuarto en dobles y eres uno de los 11 peloteros extranjeros con 1000 turnos consumidos en la LBBP. Con certeza, Tom, tú tarde o temprano vas a ser miembro del Salón de la Fama del Béisbol venezolano. Ya el año pasado estuviste en la boleta. Y sé que para ti, tal como lo mencionaste, lo importante eran ganar títulos con Cardenales de Lara. Pero si logras esto de entrar al Salón de la Fama, ¿qué tan importante sería eso para ti?
So, I mean, if that were to happen, that would be a huge honor because for me, I take great pride in my years playing down there in Venezuela. When we would play Magallanes in Valencia, we would stop at the mall, and I believe that, yeah. So we would, you know, when we would stop there to eat on our way to go play, or if we're passing through, that's where we would stop to eat. And I would always go in there and look around, and to be able to be mentioned with some of those guys, I mean, that would be such an honor. You know, I don't know that it will happen.
Yo creo, Tom, sin duda alguna que tú vas a entrar al Salón de la Fama. Lo que pasa es que a nosotros anualmente solamente nos dan 6 votos y como este recinto abrió relativamente hace poco, pues todavía hay mucha gente rezagada, pero estoy convencido y yo como votante estoy seguro, Tom, que tú vas a estar tarde o temprano en el Salón de la Fama del béisbol venezolano.
I would be, you know, so honored. I think anybody would, you know, and especially knowing the caliber of players that are in there and the you know, caliber of people that are in there. I know some guys that will definitely be in there. I had the opportunity to play, you know, with Robert and Luis Soho, Giovanni, Edwin, you know. I had coaches, Luis Leal, you know, I had a lot of guys that are deserving, and those guys have played there for years, you know, and put up huge numbers. If to be mentioned or considered, even to be considered with those guys, for me, that's pretty special, and I would be honored. I would love it. You know, hopefully that happens. It'd be neat.
Tom, ¿qué tanto te afectó no haber ganado un título con Cardenales de Lara?
It doesn't. I mean, it doesn't change the fact that, you know, I got to play down there. I got to experience so many things. Got to meet so many great people, both on the Cardenales and off and on other teams. And that's the thing about the Venezuelan Baseball League is all of these guys, even if they're on different teams or not, they're a close-knit group of guys, you know, and to be able to kind of see that and kind of be a part of that, it's pretty neat. You know, I would have liked to win with Cardenales. It would have been fun for the people. I know how much the people in Barquisimeto, I know how much baseball means to them. And it would have been fun to do that for them. But you know, they got it these last 2 years, so it's pretty neat. Actually, the last game, you know, I was able to watch here in my living room here at home. So.
¿Qué tanto disfrutaste ver esos juegos?
They didn't transmit every game, but the last two games, and the way they did it, you know, they had some pretty good comebacks, and they got some pretty good looking young ball players on their team. So I think they got more years right away. You know, they're going to be good for years to come. So it'll be fun to watch. Hopefully they keep transmitting the games.
Creo, Tom, sin duda alguna que muchísima gente va a estar contenta de saber que aún estás pendiente de los Cardenales de Lara y del béisbol venezolano.
Well, I hope so. I remember my time in Venezuela, and you know, I still have reminders up on the walls, and it was a special time for me, and you know, if I hadn't gone down, I mean, I got 2 beautiful children, loving wife, and it's all because, you know, my time in Venezuela. So I have close ties, definitely, and very special memories of Venezuela.
Tom, espero que vuelvas a Venezuela pronto y para saludar, para disfrutar algún juego en el estadio y para que la gente te vuelva a ver.
So I hope so, sooner than later. I hope so.
I hope so.
I sure did. Thank you, Marcos, and good luck with your channel, and it's pretty. I've watched a couple of interviews, and it's a neat channel. Good luck.
Tom, espero que hayas disfrutado de esta entrevista. De verdad, muchísimas gracias por tu tiempo, por aceptar la invitación y por brindarnos todas estas anécdotas que nos has contado a lo largo de esta entrevista, la cual espero que hayas disfrutado y haya sido un rato agradable para ti. De verdad, muchísimas gracias por aceptar la invitación y fue un placer tenerte aquí en The Beatwriter.
I sure did. Thank you, Marcos, and good luck. Good luck with your channel.
Y de esta manera cerramos este ciclo con los 3 mejores importados que a nuestro juicio han pasado por la Liga Venezolana de Béisbol Profesional en los últimos 20 años. Si ustedes quieren que consigamos algún otro importado, no se los prometo, pero haremos nuestro mayor esfuerzo para poder conseguirlo. Simplemente déjenlo en la caja de los comentarios a quien les gustaría que entrevistáramos y haremos todo lo que esté a nuestro alcance. Gracias a todos los que nos han apoyado a lo largo de esta cuarentena. La verdad que el crecimiento del canal ha sido importante en estos días y de verdad lo aprecio mucho. Estoy muy entusiasmado también con lo que viene porque estamos preparando cosas muy interesantes, así que espero que sigan en sintonía de The Beatwriter. Para ello solamente se tienen que suscribir en el botón rojo que está debajo del video, darle a la campanita y eso es todo. Es gratis para que podamos seguir creciendo y así sigan disfrutando del trabajo que estamos desarrollando con mucho esfuerzo aquí en The Beatwriter. No me quiero despedir de esta edición de The Beatwriter sin dejar de mandarle saludos a Astrid Concepción, quien compartió uno de nuestros videos en su cuenta de Instagram, me etiquetó y así de esa manera se ganó llevarse este saludo en este final de este video. Si ustedes quieren recibir saludos de parte nuestra, solamente tienen que hacer eso, compartir uno de nuestros videos, etiquetarme en cualquiera de sus redes sociales y yo los estaré saludando en un próximo video. Me despido, no sin antes dejarle de este lado 2 videos para que sigan en sintonía de The Beatwriter y de este otro lado les dejo el botón para que se suscriban. Nos vemos en una próxima ocasión, capaz me demoro unos días más en montar el próximo video porque estamos preparando un trabajo especial que me va a llevar bastante esfuerzo, pero creo que va a ser positivo. Si lo logramos va a ser positivo, no les prometo nada, pero estamos haciendo el mayor esfuerzo, pero probablemente me tome unos días. Así que disfruten del contenido que tenemos aquí en The Beatwriter.